Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about financial advisors telling corporate America that you got to ditch DEI. That's a liability. Now, there's a letter that was sent with a bunch of financial advisors. I noticed that nobody from BlackRock had signed it. But yeah, I mean, look, as if corporate America hasn't gotten the memo already. This year, especially, that America is done with DEI initiatives. If we're seeing entertainment pivot slower, I think it's because in some ways it's, well, one, it's kind of the last holdout because of where most entertainment's produced, but also a lot of this stuff takes years. Yeah, it takes years. They can't just drop it. But
a lot of stuff you're seeing, like last year or two, was planned back when it was like 2018.
Yeah, and somehow Jaguar didn't get the memo. Like they decided.
I know. I still can't. I should have to my kids, and they're like, "What is it even for?"
Oh God. So we're going to talk about this. This is a very interesting article. This is actually coming to us from John F. Trent, who makes the rounds. He's writing for Fandom Pulse now. Mm-hmm. So we'll take a look at that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, give woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Clownfish-.com. You can buy merch. You can join the Plus Club, where we're starting to build up our community, and we are posting some podcasts that you're not going to get anywhere else except for locals. You can grab the locals too. We're mirroring the content, so you can basically support Clownfish Minus either on the website or through locals. Clownfishtv.locals.com. Yeah, so this is pretty interesting stuff here, and I know this article was making the rounds on Blue Sky. People were really pissed off about, like, how dare the chuds? They're just making us feel bad. They're just dancing on the grave. They're putting salt in the wound. Yeah. After 8+ years of being told that we're awful and we're Nazis and we're misogynists and we're homophobes and we're sexist and racist and blah 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 blah. Yeah, it feels pretty good, man, to just be like, yeah, we're done.
I just think it's funny they're saying that it's only a liability now. It was a liability before this.
It was.
And it was a liability even against the very people you were claiming you were helping, because all you did was just increase, bad behaviors across the board. People were assuming that some people got hired based on that. And then you have a bunch of choices and things that were made. They're doubling down narrative. It cost you customers. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump getting elected. It was already a bad idea before this.
Yes. And when it starts to hit people in the wallet, and I think it was propped up artificially for a number of years because of the venture capital, because a lot of times these businesses would be bankrolled for 5 or 8 years.
Well, and there was a lot of funding out there just if you went all in on this
money
stuff,
and, then of course, the whole issue with BlackRock and all that garbage. But it's over. It's over. And they're pointing out correctly that the American people are done with it too.
Yes, it can't be just the vocal minority. It's just across the board.
It's
for
across
companies
the board.
to cut it in the way they've been cutting it lately, they have to be taking a financial hit.
And they are. I mean, we're seeing massive...
It's across the board.
Massive boycotts. We're seeing box office disasters. We're seeing, AAA video games dying. I mean, basically, if people get a whiff of this, forced diversity and inclusion initiative, and you can smell it coming. It's like ham-fisted... kind of like chick tracks is how I sort of it's like it's not organic. It feels off. It feels like they're going to have a lecture in the middle of a movie about feeling like an outcast because you're gay just because they had to do it for diversity's sake. It wasn't like it was part of the plot or anything. It was like, now's the part where we make the straight white men feel bad, for whatever reason, swapping characters out and race swapping characters and all that. So this open letter was urging corporations to get rid of DEI departments and policies. The financial advisors, who collectively manage over $16 billion in assets, declared this November the American electorate overwhelmingly rejected the ideological takeover of political and civic life by narrow-minded identity politics. Critical race theory and DEI purport to promote belonging and inclusion, but in reality, they sacrifice true diversity and equal opportunity by focusing on differences based on skin color, sex, or religious status.
Yeah, and like I said, it has done more to hurt people that are diverse than anything, I think, because people that might get a job because they legitimately are qualified, everybody's going to assume, probably including them, did I get this because I earned it, or did I get this because, I look a certain way, or I identify a certain way. And because aside from the jobs, because of the big pushing it across the board for entertainment and everything, and people being called names if you don't agree with things, it's just turned so many people off. And I think it's increased divisiveness exponentially compared to what it was before this happened.
Yeah, it was weird because, we talked about this, growing up in the 80s, 90s, and we never really, as kids or teenagers, looked at a piece of entertainment and been like, oh, that's the black show, that's the gay show, that's the whatever. And we had shows like Ellen and the Cosby Show and Fresh Prince and all these we actually, I would say in some ways we had more diverse shows back then. I mean, hell, even going back to the 70s, like Chico and the Man, we had more diverse shows back then than we have now. Now, like, they want a freaking ticker tape parade if they give you, a show that doesn't have a straight white lead in it.
I think it's always funny because Squid King said this once a while ago, back several years ago. He said, it's funny. It's like they keep wanting to say that they're the ones that invented it or did it. So he's like, it's like setting your kitchen on fire and then putting it out to say you're the hero. It's like you started the fire, you caused it, you did it on purpose.
Pretty much.
Then you put it out and then say and act like you deserve a reward. And that's what they did. They just walked back years and years of progress just to say they invented it, and they have actually made everything worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Significantly worse, because it's not just about real equality.
I mean, when you're telling me that in the 80s and 90s, some of the top-rated shows on TV were black-led shows, okay, you're telling me that at one point in time, Ellen was popular. Even Will and Grace, even though nobody on the show was actually gay, I guess, but they played gay. But it was a quote-unquote gay show. That was an incredibly popular show. You're going to tell me that people are homophobic, they're racist, they're, you know what I'm saying? Back in the 70s, we had Norman Lear sitcoms, and the very diverse sitcoms. They were very, very popular. And yeah, so you're basically creating racism, sexism, and homophobia again, so you can combat it.
I like that when they say, don't forget to turn your clocks back, and don't forget to vote so you don't set us back 50 years. Well, 50 years ago would have been the 70s. And honestly, if we went back 50 years, we'd probably be further ahead and more diverse than we are now.
Probably would.
And more accepting than we are now.
We probably would.
So please set us back 40, 50 years. Thank you.
There were a ton of black sitcoms in the 70s and 80s. I used to watch a lot of them in reruns.
And did you ever think, I shouldn't be watching this because I'm white? Did you ever think, wow, these people get a show because they're not white? Did you ever think anything bad about it at all?
I never did. I love what's happening.
People like me.
I watched What's Happening every day on TBS. I love that show. I love Rerun. But I used to watch those shows all the time. I never thought, Jeffersons and Sanford and Sons and Good Times. And it's just like,
I used to watch A-Team all the time, and my favorite characters were Murdoch, who's supposed to represent mental health issues, and Mr. T. And I used to watch the Mr. T cartoon with the gymnast.
Mr. T was crazy.
I love Mr. T. I still love Mr. T.
Mr. T was a freaking icon. I'm thinking
Mr. T is the best.
In the 80s, some of our biggest, especially now, we just had the Mike Tyson. I'd call it a fight. It wasn't really a fight. It was an exhibition, and I think he threw it.
I know there's a whole discussion about
anyway. But Mike Tyson, and he was one of the biggest athletes out there. Most of them were black.
Still, a lot of times that's the case.
Mary Lou Retton. People love Mary Lou Retton. We had Michael Jackson. There's nobody bigger than Michael Jackson. I try to explain to my kids about how big Michael Jackson was. I was like, okay, so if you took BTS and Taylor Swift and you put them together. That's maybe half as popular as Michael Jackson was.
You have no idea.
You have no idea. Michael Jackson was a religion.
My first cassette tape when I was a kid that I ever got was Michael Jackson. So
which one was it? Thriller?
Yes.
It was Thriller.
So I'm just saying, this whole idea that they had to do DEI to make it that people would accept diversity and inclusion is a load of shit.
Yeah,
and all it's done is undo decades of progress. And then you're trying to claim that people are terrible now, and it's like, if they are, it's because of your bullshit.
Well, yeah, what's going on is we never used to think about it. Now, I feel bad because we cover this stuff all the time, but you can see it coming a mile away. And now I look at any piece of media and I'm like, well, is there a DEI mandate? behind this. And I feel bad doing it, but I do it because it's so obvious. So obvious.
And then the thing is, it's not just like, oh, it's all white straight men who hate this.
No,
it's not. A lot of people are mad because they feel like that it just makes them look incompetent, and that there has to be mandates to give them jobs, or that it's walked back and caused more division, more bigotry, more problems than it ever helped, and it's done the opposite of what it was supposed to do. That is the truth. And then you have all these usually white Karens calling everybody racist and sexist and all this other stuff. And, for these people and speaking for them. And then if you don't like if you don't agree with them and you are the representation they're claiming to be helping, they call you names and step over you too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this is a very lengthy document. There's actually, if you go out to John Trent's article, there's a link to it, but you can see a bunch of people signed it. But they said it's a liability for any institution adherence to DEI. It should be DEAD. DEI ideology. Recent Supreme Court decisions have cast serious doubt on the legality of it because we're talking. There's a
lot of discrimination issues here,
right? And that's a whole nother issue. But they said it's led to a full-scale legal assault on DEI, according to the Wall Street Journal. Basically, it's affirmative action is proving to be illegal, I guess. The data underlying the push for DEI have been exposed as overstated at best, or worst, downright false. The financial analysts and advisors didn't stop there. They predicted that the incoming administration of Trump and Vance will likely advance and enact policies that increase the risk of current DEI policies at every corporation. Yeah, I think it's going to change very, very quickly. And then you've got Musk in the mix, and Musk has said repeatedly that DEI is killing business.
Well, we have to go back to a meritocracy. We have to go back to just, if someone's right for the job, they get the job. And if they happen to not be white, straight, and male, then even better. You know what I mean? We need to go back to just making entertainment. And that's not saying, and the thing is, they keep taking it, well, if you take it away, then you can't have diversity. Bullshit! There was diversity for years. All we're saying is make diversity organic. If this actor is the best person for the job and they, happen to be, not white, straight, and male, then by all means give them the job. If they make it because they're best suited for the character, not because they happen to have enough check boxes to get the character. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they were saying that you have to watch out because there are these groups that are bullying corporations. And they say they bully companies into adopting radical, wrong-headed, and reputationally disastrous policies. Again, look at Bud Light, look at Target, look at all these, tractor supply. Like, why is John...
or Jaguar.
Look at John Deere Tractor. John Deere Tractor tried to appeal to Portland. Who the hell in Portland is going to buy a John Deere tractor?
No, it's funny. This too has kind of come up today, with the How to Train Your Dragon trailer. Because apparently Astrid is no longer blonde and white. Because Hollywood can't do anything unless they have to race or gender swap a character. Usually to a white character to a non-white character. And if it's a male, they make it female. In this case, it was a female. And it's amusing to me because people were like melting down the comments like, you just don't like her because she's whatever. And it's like, no. And it reminded me of like Little Mermaid argument. Like people said, why are we making Ariel black? And people would say, well, a mermaid isn't culturally mentioned as being white. So, it could be any race. Okay, fine. That's true.
I'll give you that one.
We'll give you that.
Sure.
And then they say just like, you can't change like Nani or Lilo because they're Polynesian. Again, you're correct. I give you that.
Sure.
And Tiana, even though there aren't only black people in New Orleans, it makes sense that she is black and and New Orleans and being black are part of her culture and that you can't really change her. Agree with you. Mulan, you can't change her because she's Chinese. Agree with you.
Yes.
But somehow a Viking, it's complete. If you change a Viking, and people say about, well, the culture wouldn't be, you're a racist and a bigot. I'm like, well, wait, you just got done saying that you can't change these other characters because culturally you can't. And then you have a Scandinavian Viking character, and you have to make her a different race. I have absolutely no problem with the actress. I mean, at this point in time, I expect it. Like, if they don't do it, I'd be more shocked. Yeah. So I was already, we already figured they were going to do it. But I'm just saying, it's just funny to me because they'll argue till they're blue in the face that you can't change these characters because of their culture. And then change characters that culturally you shouldn't change, and then tell everybody else they're bigots. And I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry, what the heck is wrong with you?
It's the same with Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed Shadows. I mean,
that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, we have a game that takes place in feudal Japan, that touts historical accuracy, and we make the main character a black samurai that we can't prove existed, and that basically a lot of his life details were made up by this white scholar who I think fetishized the idea of there being a black samurai in Japan. And a lot of Japanese were angry. They're like, we have this game, you give us this game, and you manage to kind of, not only this, but they also changed some of the architecture. It was Chinese architecture because it's all Asian. It's all the same, right? It's all the same. Same
right.
thing.
It's all the same thing.
But
don't stereotype unless we're the ones doing it.
The reason it's okay to erase white culture is because people have actually said this. I've actually heard this.
Oh, yeah, I've heard.
There is no white culture. There's no such thing as
yes,
white
even
culture.
though there are
many
like
different white culture. Like you go to Scandinavia, each one of those countries has their own culture. A lot of times they have their own religion, their own language.
The European countries in general, that we're used to be historically, white descent, and they had their own cultures too. I mean,
languages,
right? But no, the only ones with culture are anybody that's not white.
Yeah, so that just shows what they think about white folks. Are like, oh, you're just a homogenous group of random Europeans.
The double standards what gets me. Like, I honestly am to the place where like the Astra being played by this other girl, it doesn't really bother me so much in the fact that I expected it. And I guess the girl's part white or whatever. And that's, so I'm not really too majorly, oh my God, upset about it. But I just think the double standards, that's what I'm left scratching my head about. It's just like, that's what makes me mad. It's like, you're going to tell people they have to accept her, because even though they're questioning it culturally, that they have to accept her because, you're a racist and bigot. But then the same people are like, you have to leave this character, that culture, because otherwise it makes sense in their culture. If you change it to a white person, that's not right. And I'm like, but wait a minute,
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here like, wait a minute. And this is why people are pissed.
This is why they're pissed, because it actually creates...
Let's make Cleopatra black. This is why people are pissed.
It creates more friction. It creates more issues rather than being like, hey, how do we... Yeah, again, it's not inclusive, because what happens is it's not like, hey, we're going to try to think more about expanding the audience, or can we make... shows or movies or games for a different demographic or whatever. At 9 times out of 10, it's like, how can we ham-fistedly shove characters or plots or whatever into an existing franchise? Or how can we make it very, very obvious that we're on board with this to the point of alienating our core audience? It's not additive. It's actually subtractive. You're actually, and they try to be like, oh, we're just putting more seats at the table. I'm like, no, you're not actually. You're putting more seats at the table, but you're kicking legs out from underneath other seats to make room for, it's not, you're not putting a leaf in the table to make more room. It's a very weird how it's been applied. And basically it's been used to, I believe, alienate white folks, and you don't want to do that because, again, even if you don't like white folks, you don't want to alienate them because you still need their money, right? Yeah, like, who cares what your skin color is? You still need people's money. But yeah, they're like, hey, they're going to push back against it. They said the letter made the choice these corporations have clear. You stand at important crossroads. Either you heed the voice of the American people, your shareholders, customers, and employees. Again, American people voted Trump in, including a lot of non-white folks, a lot of women.
And they're also not saying that you can't have non-white folks or women.
No.
That's not what they're saying. They're just saying these mandates aren't working.
No, they said, or even bow to fringe activists who demand you double down on failing ideology. Yeah, just go back to where things were. And I'm not saying go back to 1952. I'm not saying go back to Ozzie and Harriet and every show being, middle-class white family. I'm not saying that at all.
No, not at all.
What I'm saying is...
Go back to the 80s. Woo!
Yeah, 30, 40, 50 years ago, we were legitimately more progressive and more accepting, and DEI mandates have actually created a lot of division, a lot of resentment, and now people question everything. I feel really bad. I feel really bad for the actors in these movies.
Well, the ones that don't go out there and shoot their mouth off and make it worse.
Right. I think the Haunted Mansion, again, we keep bringing Haunted Mansion up, but that was... Again, people's first reaction was like, oh, of course, you got diverse movie or whatever. And it never mentioned race, I don't think, at all.
No, really,
But it was done dirty by all the other shit that just was so ham-fisted.
Right, but I'm like, we keep seeing this in movies like, the D&D movie and stuff. It's like these showrunners, directors, actors are out there saying really, really stupid things.
Yeah.
And then they tank the movie and then they blame everybody else. It's like, I'm not blaming actors to get hired because of these mandates, but I am blaming them if they're out there shutting their mouth off and actively causing division.
Yeah,
don't blame them unless they're being stupid.
This is appropriate because half the cast of Lord of the Rings. Now, in the case of Dungeons and Dragons, it actually was diverse. I thought the cast was great, and I think the producers or the writers, whoever it was, who went out there and talked about how they were going to run men down, I think they did more disservice to that movie. It was actually pretty good, and I kind of regret not seeing it in the theater, but whatever. We're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Let's wrap this up, guys. There we go. Things are changing very, very quickly. Please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Join the reef. Go to clownfish-.com. That's clownfish-.com. You will get exclusive access to podcasts and videos and comic strips and more, as well as merch discounts. Check it out. If you were a member, you could get this t-shirt, this dismal t-shirt, on our website. You'd get a 10% discount on that. You can also join in the community on clownfish-.com. Thank you so much for the support.